Building a software with an AI coding assistant with no coding background. This video is about my journey to building a SaaS tool with only AI, with no coding background. I had a lot of marketing knowledge and automation knowledge and building workflows. I'm an industrial engineer, but I've never built a SaaS from A to Z. I did build a few things, small things like a Chrome extension with AI or small solutions, but I was never able to do like the full cycle of building a SaaS from scratch, including connecting it to Stripe, building a backend, deploying it to a server, etc. And this is what I wanted to accomplish in this project. And in this not so short video, I'm going to pack in a lot of my learnings from this journey, which took approximately 1 month. It had many twists and many challenges, and mind you that this isn't my full-time job. I provide marketing and media buying services to other companies, and I have my own e-commerce funnels, but this is like something that I'm really attracted to and piques my curiosity, and this is why I decided to build this SaaS as a side gig. And I also believe it might be an interesting revenue stream. But the goal of this project was mostly to experiment and see if I'm able to pull it off. Let me start by sharing what I did, what was the initial setup, and then I will share with you all my takeaways, a few hacks and things that I did that without them I probably wouldn't be able to publish this app. And when I say publish, I also deployed it and I also published it on Product Hunt, which, if you don't know, Product Hunt is a website that on a daily basis shares, or it's more correct to say indie hackers or SaaS companies publish their new SaaS tools on Product Hunt, and then people can enter Product Hunt, see what products are trending, and decide to pay to different products, assuming that they are interested. So let me show you the product before we move forward. This was actually scratching my own itch. It's called promptsuperfast.com. Simple product that allows you to save your own prompts, and then basically you can filter them, tag them, or look them up based on different keywords. And obviously you can also track the amount of usage of each prompt. Let me show an example. Let's see. Let's get started. Just an example. I'm signed in a different user. You know how it goes. It won't work now. Yeah, so this is one of the users. So this is the prompt dashboard. You can add a new prompt, the prompt text, and the tag. And over here you can search for prompts based on date created or usage. This is the amount of usage of each prompt. So this is a prompt for a Facebook listicle. This is a Claude Dev prompt, copywriting prompt, etc. The pain point is basically whenever most of us, when we write a prompt, we just wing it. We improvise and we write something very fast. But the thing is that a good prompt that contains a definition of the role, a definition of examples, a definition of clear instructions, restrictions, limitations, all of this can make a prompt, the output, better. And this is why writing detailed prompt is so important. So I decided to manage all my best prompts. So instead of needing to rewrite a prompt from scratch every time, or just writing very short prompts, I will have this database of useful prompts that I use for different use cases. So if I'm content writing, so I can just look up the specific prompts that are related to content writing. In this case, it's this prompt of Facebook listicle prompt. Okay, so this is the product in a nutshell. Let's go back to the presentation. So the goal was to build an app from scratch and monetize it. As I said, what we will cover in this video are the initial attempts. I had quite a few. The challenges, how I overcame them, And then we are going to move to analysis of product hunt launch. What happened during this launch? The results were pretty surprising. And at the end, I'm going to share with you takeaways that like my conclusions regarding building projects if you don't have any coding skills and you're relying 100% on AI. Okay, so the initial setup for this was using Claude Dev and Continue Dev. For those of you who don't know, Claude Dev and Continue Dev are two free Visual Studio extensions. You can get them right here. You just come to the extensions marketplace in Visual Studio. And what you have to do is you look for Claude. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, so this is Claude, and this is how it looks like. And Continue Dev looks like this. Basically, as I said, they are both free. You can just look them up. Claude is now rebranded. It's called Klein. This one, you install it, and you will have it over here. And Continue, you can find it as well here. Continue.dev. It's this guy. Continue. And you install it, and you can see it over here. Now, they serve different purposes. I use Claude or Klein most of the time for creating boilerplates and creating like projects, the outline for the project. So can you create an outline for a Next.js project for me? Is a to-do list app. This is an example. So it creates all the files. It can manipulate files afterwards. It can read the terminal. It's very useful. On the other hand, I use Continue for smaller tweaks. So Continue, in opposing to Claude Dev, has an ability to autocomplete. So you can select a specific line of code and ask to Continue to add a comment or explain or just autocomplete a specific line. I don't know if I want to share like all of this because it's going to waste a lot of our time and we have a very long video in front of us. So if you guys don't know Claude Dev and Continue Dev, definitely check them both out. They serve different purposes. Continue, you can view Continue as more for smaller stuff, like minor tweaks in my opinion, and Claude Dev is more for the heavy lifting. As you can see here, just writing code now, it generates the files, etc. While if I want to do, as I said, just minor tweaks, let's save this. Let's say I just want to do minor tweaks, I can select this and use Continue. Let's pause this and use Continue for fixing the code, optimizing the code, writing comments for the code. So write comment for the code, and you can see it just added the code. Another nice thing with Continue is that you can add specific context. So you can add documentation of a specific project. Let's say you're using Next.js, so you can add the Next.js documentation as context, etc. So definitely check both of them out. I started building with both of them, but I hit a wall anytime that the context was becoming larger. It just started messing up, because when the context window of a project becomes very big, you cannot send the whole context to the LLM. In my case, it was mostly using Claude, Atopic Claude at the beginning. And then it started messing things up, because when it updated a function in one file, it didn't update the same function in a different file, and things became messy. And this is why I realized I need to look for a different approach. Another challenge that I encountered is when the code was becoming larger and larger. Whenever I did adjustments, Claude used to write to me like the adjustment, but it didn't write the code from A to Z. It just wrote rest of the code remains unchanged or stuff like this. And since most of the time I just let it roam freely on autopilot because I didn't understand what was written in the code. I just assumed that it was doing what I asked it. So things became messy because I didn't validate it. So this was very frustrating. I always built like a very simple front end, maybe connected it to a local backend, seemed to be working. But when I wanted to connect a database or move forward to stuff which was a bit more complex, things became messy. So what I did, I tried using Atopic prompts, and whatever I'm going to share in this video, these are not things that don't work in all use cases. So I'm just sharing with you things that I find useful, but in my experiment, they were not useful for serving the specific purpose that I wanted. But for example, the Atopic prompt generator is a useful tool that you should know about, but specifically in my case, it wasn't enough. So the Atopic tool, you can find it here. So console, anthropic.com dashboard. Let's say you want to write an email. So if you would have prompted Claude or OpenAI, so write for me an email template for cold outreach. I have an automation agency. So this is like a typical lazy ass prompt that you would write. So, but you can use the prompt generator in order to provide the seed, and now Anthropic is just generating a well-crafted prompt. So your task was creating an email template for cold outreach for an automation agency. This template should be adaptable and effective, blah, blah, blah. Then XML tags opening the agency name, XML tags for defining the services, who is the target audience. When crafting the email, these are the guidelines, another tips, limitations, etc. So this is a more useful prompt. Basically, what my goal was to take these prompts and save them in the tools that I created and started selling. But this is one thing that I changed, and I started working only with well-crafted prompts. I thought that this would solve my issues of building a more complex project, but it didn't. The next step was using specific custom instructions. So one thing that is becoming very popular these days in the world of AI coding assistance is using custom instructions. And this is discussed often in the Klein/Claude Discord group. And also you can find it in forums related to Corsair. Corsair is another fantastic AI coding assistant. They have a file that is called Corsair Rules, which basically provides the AI coding assistant high-level instructions regarding how do you want to structure the project. So this is useful to an extent, but based on my experience, whenever the code base becomes very large, the specific custom instructions were not sufficient, at least what I tried. I definitely suggest that you check these things out. Let me show you an example, Corsair directory. You can see examples over here or in the Discord group of Claude Dev. So you can see here, let's say you want to build an Next.js project. You can provide this as custom instructions to the AI coding assistant. So you are a senior front-end developer, an expert in blah, blah, blah. Follow the requirements, guidelines, the coding environment, tech stack, guidelines regarding writing the code, how to structure the whole project, etc. So this is something that is useful, but it wasn't enough for me. Then what I did, I tried taking it a bit more patiently and moving a bit slower. So I asked Klein to write some code for me, and then I asked Claude to write instructions for me in each line, like inline commenting. And sometimes I also asked it to explain this code. So, and I'm using Grok, Llama, specifically the model Llama. One thing that is cool when you use continue and Klein is the fact that you can work with two different coding LLMs. So on one hand, I used Grok API using Llama for speed and also providing the instruction, stuff like this. But most of the code was written using Atopic in Klein. There are some use cases in which, based on research, it's better to combine different models. I will cover this later on in the video. Anyway, this wasn't enough. Then what I did, I looked up different end-to-end tutorials in YouTube, like 8 hours long courses, 3 hours long courses of how to build a Next.js app from scratch. So I started building them. I got kind of bored after a while. Sometimes I did stick to the end, but whenever I had issues, I didn't know how to solve them because I didn't understand what's going on for real, you know. Although, as I told you, I'm an engineer and I did software developing courses in my degree and in the past, but I didn't have like real hands-on experience in building web apps. So my next move was going to GitHub projects and trying to build on top of them. For those of you who don't know, I assume that most of you do know, GitHub is a source for open source projects. And very often we can basically just find in the source code for a project that we would like to build. So let's say GitHub. Let's say I want to build a to-do list app. So instead of writing it from scratch, what I can do is to-do list. You can just look it up. You sort by most folks. And there you go. You have a to-do list app. Let's say to-do list app. There you see. Yes, there you go. Express to-do list app, Flutter to-do list app. So there are a ton of to-do list apps that you can basically clone and build on top of them. So I thought, okay, why not just build on top of something that is already working? It's not as if my project was unique or complex. I tried doing this, but still it wasn't enough because, again, whenever I wanted to adjust stuff, I did use the coding assistance, but after a while the context became too big and things became messy. Then I said, okay, let's see how I can optimize the AI coding assistant. How can I provide the optimal amount of context window? Because on one hand, we don't want to provide too little context because then we might omit data that is important for the coding assistant to understand, let's say files that are relevant for adjusting. But on the other hand, if you provide too much context, the LLM doesn't know exactly what it needs to fix and what it needs to focus on. So I've read different research papers using Google Scholar and Archive to try to figure this out. Obviously, it's very context dependent, pun intended, and there is no right and wrong in terms of what is the size of context to use, especially that different LLMs have different context windows and operate differently. So I thought of using Gemini, which has a 2 million tokens context window, but the performance wasn't there, so I decided to move on. Then what I did, I said, okay, let's try a different approach. I saw an article published by the Aider team, which basically said that when you make a distinction between the LLM that architects and plans the project and the LLM that executes and writes the code, it can yield better results. So I decided to move to this different type of building. I had O1 preview writing like the whole plan and then Claude implementing. I also tried taking screenshots. Let me show you an example. So chat open AI. Let's do the whole flow, just so you see an example. So this is a simple prompt. I'm using the Atopic console. Then I'm going to take the prompt and paste it in O1 for a deeper plan. Let's take this, paste it over here. O1 has the best reasoning capabilities. You are an experienced Next.js developer tasked with helping create a to-do list app. Your role is to provide clear step-by-step guidance on building an app on the user's requirement. Follow these instructions. Only plan, don't write code. So this is basically how I did this. I obviously went over everything in a more detailed manner. I also asked it to ask me questions. Let's see what we need to adjust here. Just write most detailed plan and specs for a to-do list app. Ask me any guiding questions if needed. So it wrote this, and then I took the instructions and guidelines to Klein to start creating the code based on this. But again, I hit a wall because when the context became big, things became messy and I couldn't progress. So the next thing I did is I decided that I need a different approach, and I probably invested too much time trying to pull this off on my own. So I decided I should hire a teacher. And this is something that I've done very often in many things that I wanted to study, especially professionally. So whenever I wanted to master an automation tool, so I would just go to Upwork or Preply and hire an automation expert, do a few sessions with them, screen recording sessions in which they guided me, taught me best practices. They went over my automations, provided feedback. Mind you, this was like 5 years ago. So hiring a teacher is something that I used often, but for some reason I had the notion that I will be able to pull it off without hiring a teacher, only using AI. So after trying this for a while, and as you guys saw, I shared with you all the challenges that I encountered and how I tried to overcome them, I decided to hire someone. So basically, how did I hire? I have two go-to places in which I hire. The first one is Preply. Preply, actually, I think it started as a marketplace for finding tutors, language tutors. So for example, if you want to study English or German or whatever, this is how it started. Later on, I think it has evolved to finding tutors in specific skills or specific professions. And you can now not only learn different languages, you can also learn stuff related to your profession. So UX, UI, data science, ID, project management, AI, web development, etc. So let's say you want to learn web development, you can come here, state the amount of money you're willing to pay per lesson, and mind you, you can find very talented people for less than $10. So let's say 3 to 10. Then you can decide if you want the specific country of birth, specific specialties, languages that the tutor will speak, etc. And then you can just sort by popularity. And what I usually do, I just start reaching out to many people, like 30 people. Hey, I'm looking to build this and this. I'm curious to hear about your experience, your availability, etc. And then out of 30, 5, 10 will respond, and then you can interview them. I mean, hop on a call, see if it works out. You can also book a trial lesson, which is 10 or 5 or $10, depending how much you're willing to pay. It can also be 40, it really depends. And based on this, you can move forward and hire a teacher. Highly recommended. one small trick that you can do, that if you're not able to find someone that suits exactly your criteria, you can also look for them in Google. So using the Google Advanced Search Operands, so site https preply.com. This tells Google that I only want to look for pages specifically in the Preply website, and then over here you can write what you specifically are looking for. So let's say Next.js, and this shows me all the people that have Next.js in their tutor page. So instead of using Preply directly, their search directly, you can use this workaround. So let's say we want to learn Stoic philosophy, so you can find this way Stoic teachers for Stoic philosophy. So this is one route, the Preply, and the other route is going to Upwork. And in Upwork, you just come here, post a job, long-term project. By the way, if you don't know, basically Upwork is a marketplace for hiring professionals. It's my go-to marketplace for any hires that I do, because they have a very robust review system and a lot of great talent and candidates. So basically you come here, long-term project. You can use the AI feature that kind of accelerates the process of writing the job description. You can do it on your own, or you can use the AI assistant. Basically just tell it, I need a tutor to explain to me all the fundamentals of building a Next.js web app. Must have hands-on experience as a tutor, perfect English, and patient. Just, it has a restriction of 150 characters. Let's do like this. And now it's going to generate the job description. You set an hourly rate. You can do 5 to 35, whatever you wish. This gives you, this is a graph that is somewhat useful. Anyway, it's going to generate this job post. As you can see, Next.js web app tutor needed. I'm seeking a knowledgeable tutor to teach me the fundamentals of building a web application using Next.js. The ideal candidate should have hands-on experience in tutoring and be able to break down complex concepts into manageable parts. Excellent English communication skills and patient demeanor are essential to ensure an effective learning environment. If you have a passion for teaching and solid understanding of Next.js, I would love to hear from you. Over here, you can add skills and a few more ways to filter. And basically, you hit this button, finalize job post, and then people are going to start reaching out to you. And you can also start reaching out to people, which is if you're lacking time or you want to accelerate the process, is what I would do. So I would just filter candidates based on the amount that they generated in Upwork. So people who generate more than 10K and the rating is above 90%, live in specific countries, for example, or speak English, and then you can just send like invitations to interview, or you can wait for people to reach out to you. Luckily, after like having 5 conversations, I found a tutor, and I told him what I was looking for, and we started running. And the moment we started, after like 1 lesson, I had more clarity regarding the project that I didn't achieve this level of clarity in like 20 or 30 hours of trying to solve this on my own. Obviously, it probably depends on your learning style, but for me, it was way more useful than I even expected. I thought that I will be able to learn via the AI and asking questions, stuff like this, but this turned out to be very useful. So we started meeting every day for 2 sessions, between 60 minutes to 2 hours long each session. Just because after 2 hours, straight. Both our brains, I mean, my brain was fried. I assume that his brain was fried as well. So we met like at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. This way we progressed. Our tech stack was Next.js 14, Postgres, which is an SQL database, Prisma, which is an ORM, ShadCN for UI, like as a UI library, Stripe for payments, and Auth.js for authentication. And by the way, before I started building, every time I started building with a specific tech stack, and then I got like uncertain regarding which libraries should I use, or should I switch to a different tech stack which seemed more lucrative, and different tutorials said it's going to be easier. So all the time I kind of went back and forth with different tech stacks. And the benefit of hiring someone is that he told me, listen, this is the tech stack that we are going to use, and we are going to make this happen with this tech stack. We are not going to, jump around between different tech stacks, because at the end of the day, most tech stacks are somewhat similar. They have different small nuances between them, especially when it comes to a small project. So you can pull this off, like the web app, you can pull off with Next.js, you can pull off with vanilla JavaScript or with React. It doesn't really matter for these tiny projects. So this is why it was so useful for me to have someone who provided this type of clarity and just told me, this is what we are going to do. Because before I just started the project, paused, restarted, etc. This was also a great reminder that we don't know what we don't know. So many things that I tried to use the AI to help me, I didn't even ask the correct questions, or I sometimes I overlooked stuff that I could have used and could have saved me a ton of time if I just knew this. So this is why I urge you, and this is why I also created this video, so I urge you to consider having an objective teacher or professional developer, assuming that you're not a software engineer, and he is going to build and assess and help you with at least planning the project, because sometimes you don't even know what you should mention in the prompt to the AI. So this is one thing, like a reminder that we don't know what we don't know. And while we did the lessons, I kind of asked to clarify everything. And it was important for me to hear the definition in his own words, even if it's stuff that I knew from before because I encountered them or I already studied them during the courses. I wanted to have a clarity and listen to like the explanation of the tutor, of the teacher or consultant. This was very useful. And since from the get-go, we kind of made it, I don't want to come across as too, woohoo, but it was like a safe place. I wasn't afraid to ask stupid questions because this is not just my area of expertise. So since from the get-go, I wasn't afraid to ask stupid questions. I felt better afterwards asking more stupid questions. And eventually, I think it helped me in the learning process. Okay, so another thing that I did that was very useful is after we had a session and let's say I didn't understand something, my learning style in opposing, like I know different people have different learning styles. My style, and also in business, I've spent more than $30 million on Facebook ads already, and I built funnels that generated 7 and 8 figures. And I always go for huge volume and working like very broad. So I always start with the whole project at a very shitty level, and then I just add another layer to the project, and then just another layer, etc. Or even when I read a book, I never focus if there is something that I don't understand. Let's say I read Plato or a different philosophical book that has like stuff that is a bit more like arguments or explanations that are a bit more challenging to comprehend. I never dwell on a specific part of the book. I just say, okay, never mind, let's keep moving forward. Later on, I probably might understand this from the context, or worst case, I will just reread it. So this is also how I approach these lessons. And I know other people like, to focus and until they don't understand a specific part of the book or a specific part of the code, they like trying to figure out everything. More of a perfectionist, not in a bad way, but this is just how they roll. So I'm not like this. So in the lessons, I wanted to create momentum. And sometimes if I didn't understand something, I just went to OpenAI voice mode. And even when I was just, walking around with my daughter, she was sleeping in the stroller, I took out voice mode. And what I did, I asked it to explain to me definitions and aspects of coding verbally. And I also asked it to give examples and analogies and assume that I'm in 7th grade. So let me show you an example. Let's see if it works. So one thing that I had challenges to understand is what is props and what is the difference. Let's say what is the difference between functions and props. So I did like this. Let's assume that you are a Next.js tutor. I need you to explain to me what are functions and props. Please assume that I have zero knowledge of coding and also provide analogies from the real world and also explain as if I'm in 7th grade.
All right. Imagine a function is like a recipe in a cookbook. It has a name, a list of ingredients, and a set of instructions. When you follow the recipe, you combine the ingredients to create a dish. In programming, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task. It has a name, can take inputs, and gives an output, like a finished dish. Now, props, short for properties, are like the specific ingredients you give to a recipe. Imagine you're making cookies, and you decide to add chocolate chips. Those chocolate chips are like props you pass to the cookie recipe function to make chocolate chip cookies instead of plain ones. In programming, props are values or pieces of information you pass to a function or component, helping it know exactly what to do. So, functions are your recipes, and props are the special ingredients you add to make each dish unique.
Awesome. I understood. Do you mind asking me a few questions as if this is a quiz? And then let's see my answer, and this way we'll understand that I understood what you meant.
Sure, let's turn this into a little quiz. First question, imagine you have a recipe for a cake. What would a function represent in this scenario?
Okay, so you get just this. This is also something that I did. After I had the ChatGPT explain to me these analogies and these stories, I also asked it to create a quiz for me, because when it created a quiz, I had to answer the question. Sometimes I got it wrong and it corrected me. And after I did this, what I asked it to do is I asked it to create a cheat sheet. And I took the cheat sheet and I just added it to the code base. And every day, every evening before closing the computer, I read the cheat sheet, and in order just to understand better syntax, what does everything mean, etc. So this was very powerful, and I highly recommend that you do this. While we were building the project, I realized that understanding the syntax is crucial, because I had the tutor, we shared the screen, and he told me to adjust. So I wrote the code with my bare hands many times, and he told me to fix something, and it took me so long just to understand what he referred to, because I didn't understand the syntax, because I didn't have the solid foundation. So this is why also I created this cheat sheet, and I use these analogies to drive home what does each thing mean. But as time went by in this project, I started understanding, I realized, or I noticed that I was faster and faster, because I got acquainted with the syntax and I started understanding the code base on a deeper level. So things came faster, and it didn't require so much effort for me to understand what's going on, because I already was exposed many times to the code, so it became easier and easier. So this is also something to worth noting. So we went back and forth. Obviously, we planned the project, we built the database, we decided how the front end is going to look like, how the back end is going to look like, which library we're going to use for authentication, with the fact that we are going to connect Stripe, etc. But most of the things I didn't write by hand. Most of the things we use ChatGPT. So we moved away from the AI coding assistants and we moved towards ChatGPT. While I usually prefer Claude, in this project, since we started with ChatGPT, because my tutor had more experience with ChatGPT, when I wanted to switch to Claude, usually it became messy. So one understanding that I have, maybe it's an observation, I might not be correct, that it didn't work out so well combining different LLMs in the same code base, which makes sense. So we decided to stick to ChatGPT. And I started noticing that whenever we wanted to adjust something, we basically gave specific context. We didn't give the whole code base. We usually took only the front-end page, the relevant front-end page, the relevant back-end page, so the API routes, and the schema of the database. This was, most of the time, this was the whole context that was necessary for ChatGPT to generate a new response. The prompts were super simple. If you wanted to add Google authentication to the API routes, we told ChatGPT, this is my front end, this is my backend file of the routes, pasted the code, this is my schema, generate the code for us, and generated the code. So I started noticing that we always use like 3 files, mostly the backend file of the relevant thing that we want to build, the front-end file, and the schema. And this way, because we always included the schema, which is the database, and we always included the backend and the front-end, things didn't get messy because the context window was pretty limited. After ChatGPT wrote for us these adjustments, every time my consultant made a point to validate everything, because sometimes it did hallucinate and made adjustments that we didn't want to, but since we were monitoring every iteration, we were able to spot this and then just go back to ChatGPT and ask it to fix the code. So this is another thing that I didn't do before. I kind of relied heavily on the AI coding assistant. I didn't validate every change or every edit that he did, and this is a huge mistake. I'm not going to do this anymore. Okay, so this took us approximately 35 hours going back and forth. We finished building. We deployed on Hetzner, which is the server that I'm using, and then when we thought that we finished, we realized that we have a lot more things to get done. So, you know, the joke or the saying that every project has the first 99% and the rest 99%. So this is how it felt. We did like the whole project. It took us like 35 hours. Then just deploying, changing to production, reconnecting Stripe, everything, it took us a lot of time and effort, but it's basically because it was my first time. Obviously, I think that I can build this now with even without the boilerplate, just building it from scratch. I think it can take me like 15 hours. And I guess for an experienced dev, this type of project should take not more than 5 hours. Anyway, so we eventually deployed on Hetzner. And then I wanted to deploy I wanted to launch on Product Hunt. So for those of you who don't know what is Product Hunt is a platform. I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but Product Hunt is a platform in which SAASes, indie hackers publish their products on a daily basis. It has more than 3 million visitors per month. Let me show you in SimilarWeb the exact data. If you guys don't know what is SimilarWeb is a platform that allows you to see a prediction of the amount of data coming from in a website, and also the traffic sources. So if the data is organic, from paid, from SEO, which countries, etc. So 3 million visitors in Product Hunt on a monthly basis. These are the competitors: Indie Hackers, Figma. There's an AI for that. Notion. I don't think they are direct competitors necessarily. Countries, so 20% India, 15%, 20% US, 15% India, and these are the marketing channels. Anyway, so I wanted to test if I can generate organic traffic from Product Hunt, because I said, okay, if there are 3 million people on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, so every month we expect to have approximately 1K visitors to the website. And basically how Product Hunt works is every day you have products that launched, and they launch at 12 a.m. US time, I think San Francisco time. And then whenever a visitor visits a website, he can see what is the top ranked website. And the websites are being ranked based on upvotes. So people can just come here and upvote a product. So I thought that I can get somewhat like some traffic, because I thought that my product was cool. So I decided to launch a Product Hunt. Before I launched a Product Hunt, I made some UI adjustments. I forgot to mention that we use ChatGPT for specifically for the 4.0 model for writing all the code. But for making the UI, we only use V0. V0 is a product by Vercel. It allows you to. It's also like ChatGPT. It's supposed to generate code for you, but I think the biggest benefit of V0 is the fact that it uses ShadCN built-in, and it knows how to build very beautiful components. So can you create a to-do list app for me? You see it just generates a beautiful front end. So what I did, we usually took the code from the code base and pasted it here and told it to generate the front end using ShadCN. So this is the front end. Make it more comprehensive. Add header, navbar, footer, and a few pricing. Just making this stuff up to see how beautifully it designs the front end. And this is also free until you hit the limit. Once you hit the limit, you can switch to the paid plan. It's $20. I paid the $20 because I wanted to move faster, but check this out. Has dark mode, navbar, to do the pricing. I don't think it's you can see here the pricing plans. It already provides you like the pricing plans, what will be in every pricing plan, and you can just copy the code and start moving forward. So this is amazing. V0 is amazing for the front end. Okay, so another thing that I did is I call it the CRO hack. So basically I took screenshots of a website that I like. Let's say Ship Fast. This is a website by a famous indie hacker, which is called Mark Lu. He's selling a boilerplate. So what I did, I took a screenshot of his website, and I took a screenshot of my website, and I asked ChatGPT to analyze different landing pages. So let's do this live using this Chrome extension, which is called Go Full Page. Okay, we download the image. Now let's go to my landing page. Let's download the image. Okay, cool. Now let's open a new conversation over here. Let's use 40. Drag both of these. You are a CRO expert with 20 years of experience building UX, UI funnels for SaaS. Please analyze and compare these two landing pages before analyzing. Think step by step about the parameters. Give them a score, and afterwards give them a score. I didn't disclose that one product is mine and the other product is the competitor because I didn't want him to be biased. And afterwards, I asked it to provide insights and guidelines how to improve my specific landing page. So let's see what it wrote. Clarity of value proposition. Prompt super fast. The value proposition, save, filter, and utilize your prompts efficiently is immediately visible. It's concise and targeted, appealing directly to users looking to manage and reuse prompts efficiently. The supporting subheader explains the benefits quickly. Ship fast. The main headline, ship your startup in days, not weeks, is also clear and impactful, but it may appeal more to technically oriented audience. The value proposition is well defined, but lacks specificity. Scores as following. Visual hierarchy and layout. Prompt super fast. This page uses a clean, straightforward layout with plenty of white space. The CTA and core features are easy to locate, making navigation intuitive. Visual simplicity helps users focus on content. Ship fast. It has a darker, busier layout with many visual elements and high density approach, catering more to tech-savvy audience. Call to action. Social proof. User testimonials effectively with specific names and job titles, giving credibility. It also includes the number of users, which adds a layer of trust. Ship fast showcases customer logos, testimonials, and UGC, which provides strong social proof. However, the layout and density may overwhelm some visitors. Feature explanation. List key under why save and filter your prompts. Ship fast includes a feature breakdown, but the details might be too technical for non-developers. Design and aesthetic appeal, pricing and offers, FAQ session, and overall score, and then a conclusion. Prompt fast, super fast achieves higher clarity, accessibility, and overall conversion potential due to its minimalist design, effective CTA, and straightforward messaging. Ship fast is visually engaging, but may benefit from a simpler layout and more explicit feature explanations to appeal to a broader audience. Now, here you can also provide more context about the target audience or the way you are planning to acquire customers. And based on this, ask ChatGPT, the CRO expert, to provide advice. Let's give you an example. Keep in mind that I'm generating Google search traffic to both websites. So these are prospects with high buying intent. Give me action items about how to adjust each of the pages. Be very clear and precise. So, traffic that comes from Google Ads has a higher intent of buying because we showed Google Ads to people who specifically looked for a specific keyword that is related to us. So what it says, given that you're driving high intent Google search traffic to these pages, we want to maximize the conversion by ensuring clear, accessible information and minimizing friction for ready to buy prospects. Here are specific action items for each page. So for my page, it said increased sense of urgency, clarified CTA at the top, enhanced social proof, Add more pricing justification. Include a small why 19.99 is a great investment box next to the price. Briefly outline specific ROI, e.g. save 5 hours weekly, improve workflow by 50%, blah, blah, blah. Highlight the lifetime access, etc., etc. So this is amazing, very useful. I highly recommend that you check it out. Awesome. So let's move forward. So I got ready to launch on Product Hunt, and I wanted an advisor to help me with the Product Hunt launch. I found someone on Upwork. He had an interesting offer, but I decided that since I'm thinking of building a strategy that is basically relies on just shipping many projects, first of all, I wanted to see, since this is only my first project, I wanted to see, okay, let's see what happens when I launch a product without any marketing initiatives. Let's see what is the baseline. So I decided not to pay anyone, and I decided not to do any black hat stuff, any paid, not asking for friends to upvote me, no, nothing. Just publish the product to Product Hunt and see what happens. Launch day happened. I wasn't so excited. It's not as if I invested so much into the marketing, but on one hand, while I wasn't like really excited, I was curious to see what is going to happen. So after 10 minutes after launching, I started getting emails and LinkedIn invitations from people who suggested to provide upvote services. So I got like 6 or 8 of these, and initially I thought, okay, this might be interesting, but then I saw that I was bombarded by different service providers. Basically what they say, listen, pay us $100, we will provide upvotes, 150 upvotes for you, which in turn, if you have 150 upvotes at the get-go, it's going to increase your exposure, because as you can see over here, with 150 upvotes, you can be like 5th or 6th in the product of the day category. Obviously, if you buy the upvotes very early in the day, so it can easily push you to be on top of the Product Hunt page. And then if you're on top of the page, you're probably going to get more exposure, and this might drive more traffic. On the other hand, this is a cool idea. Anyway, on the other hand, I decided I don't want to go the black hat route, so I decided not to pay anyone. And also, since so many offers started to come in, I realized that there is a very high likelihood that this whole thing is rigged. And after I thought about it more carefully, I realized, okay, what did you expect? I mean, anywhere that marketers are involved, people are trying to rig the system. So it only makes total sense to have people that provide this type of services and black hat stuff. But for some reason, when I just got started, I was kind of naive. Anyway, I decided not to invest, and I got, I think, 12 upvotes and like 15 website visitors. So it was very lame, way below my expectations. But it also was like, a reality check or a reminder that organic isn't easy. You need to, unless you have like something very viral and which is a very low probability, you need to stand out, or you need to do like, you need to pour a ton of effort into the marketing. So pre-launch strategy, black hat stuff, or even if you're not willing to invest time in the organic route, you should use paid, because it's very hard to stand out by doing nothing, just hoping that your product will stand out because it seems unique because you're the founder. So this was a great reminder about this. Okay, let's now start covering the takeaways from this whole project. This project took me approximately one month long. As I told you, 35 hours of building with the consultant. By the way, if you guys are interested in me connecting you to the specific consultant, reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'll be happy to create win-win situations, because I know that they are actively seeking more people to help. And if you guys are convinced that this might be relevant for you, instead of going back and forth with the AI coding assistant, just reach out to me in LinkedIn. So first takeaway, hire for knowledge. We often don't know what we don't know. Even if you hire someone, no one knows everything, you know. So even my consultant, he was great when it comes to Next.js and had a lot of patience and very knowledgeable. But some things that were more DevOps related or more Windows related, since he uses more Linux, he didn't know. So I asked a different friend of mine, which is a DevOps expert, and he gave me advice that really accelerated the process. We just connected to the server via Visual Studio Code instead of RDPing into it or using SSH via like the command line. Anyway, so all I'm saying is hire for knowledge. And even if you hire for knowledge, you must realize that no one knows everything. So don't expect the person that you're hiring to solve all your issues. You must take extreme ownership, and you're responsible for the project eventually. The next thing is make sure to have the foundation. AI cannot build on quicksand. So for me, I tried using AI coding assistants, and you guys that are watching this video and already saw other videos of mine, you know that I love using Klein, and you know that I have already many years of experience in building automations and running Facebook ads and building funnels, but I didn't have the foundational knowledge of building web apps. And I thought that if I use AI coding assistant, I will be able to skip the phase of working hard and understanding the foundations, but this was incorrect. So make sure to learn the foundations. You can do this by watching the courses, by hiring someone, by doing what I did, which is basically just doing quizzes and asking OpenAI, like the voice mode, to explain to you stuff. Another thing that was very helpful for me was just writing the code on my own, although it is pretty painful when you just get started. It really helped me, memorize things. And later on, when I took a look at the code base, I started understanding more and more, because I actually wrote with my own fingers what I did. Another thing, now when it comes to driving traffic to your offer or your SaaS or whatever you're building, organic is most likely rigged. Don't expect, going viral isn't a strategy in my opinion. Product Hunt in this aspect was below my expectations, but obviously my expectations were wrong. I don't think that Product Hunt can solve all your issues. If this was what you envisioned, or the strategy that you thought that you will launch on Product Hunt like all the other famous indie hackers, and you're going to get a ton of traffic, this is probably incorrect. Another takeaway is you must try to use LLMs in creative ways to learn. So generating quizzes, asking it to tell you analogies, stories about stuff that you want to learn. Whatever you want to learn, there is probably a way to use LLMs in order to help you speed up the learning process, whether it's a language or coding or whatever, or even statistics or whatever. Another huge takeaway, which is more related to building using AI coding assistants, is this is a famous quote: if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. I think it was by Roosevelt or some other famous American president. It's very important to understand the tech stack and the user story, the permissions, and the whole flow of the users from the get-go. So as much as, if you're anything like me, you're not a big fan of planning into details. I like building on the fly, as you probably understood. But I think when we are using an AI coding assistant, maybe it's incorrect. It's always important to plan in details. When you're using AI coding assistant and you don't know much about coding, you must invest more time in planning, because whenever things will go sideways and you're not prepared and you don't have the knowledge to fix it because you're not a coder and you don't have software engineering skills, it will probably mess up your whole project. So all I'm saying is, at the get-go, you must decide the tech stack. As I said, my tech stack for the web app was Next.js, Prisma for ORM, Postgres, SQL, Auth.js for authentication, and Stripe for payments. Use ChatGPT for writing the code, V0 for the front end. That's it. So I knew the tech stack and I decided on this tech stack and I wasn't going to deviate. The next thing is user stories, is what exactly each user is going to see in each page, which pages are you going to have, which permissions which users will have. So let's say you have the admin, you have paying customers, you have non-paying customers that they are signed in, you have non-paying, non-signed in customers, guests. So each user is going to have different permissions and different flows. And after a user paid, where is going to be redirected, when is the Facebook pixel going to fire an event. So plan carefully. You can use O1 to assist you with planning. I suggest asking O1 to ask you many questions about the project before it creates an outline. So plan carefully about the permission, user stories, etc. I don't think I will share this in this video, but I created like a checklist of all the things that you need to know upfront before you start moving forward with an AI coding assistant, at least based on my perception or based on my experience. And this is also related to database, the planning of the database, the scheme of the database. Because eventually what you want to do, you want to reduce the context size. You want to build modular components that will allow the LLM to easily adjust and fix things in your code without needing to get a ton of context. So this is obviously related to just coding better. If you're interested, I highly recommend that you check out this book. What's the name of the book? Coding book about with the principle of as little as possible. What the fucks? Clean Code, yes. Clean Code, Amazon. Clean Code. Yeah, so if you're interested, these books are very good and they teach you principles of coding development that are related to any type of project. You can also look them up in YouTube, or Clean Code Talk, YouTube. This one, Clean Code by Uncle Bob. It's a playlist and it's very valuable. It teaches you exactly fundamentals and principles of good coding. Basically, it should be modular and never repeat yourself, etc., etc. So this is very useful and very important. I highly recommend that you check it out. What else? Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Let me think. Okay, so in conclusion, this was a great learning experience for me. I feel way more confident about my ability to build stuff now. I think the biggest accelerator for this whole thing was hiring someone who taught me how to look at things, because it's not only the coding, it's also asking him how he approaches a problem. Whenever we had an issue, we started debugging it together. Initially he was debugging and I was watching, but later on I also started to understand how to debug stuff. So this was also very valuable. Another conclusion was using different LLMs for different use cases, not to mix different LLMs. If you are using LLM, always validate each step of changes in the code. V0 is excellent for front-end design. Launching on Product Hunt didn't move the needle. What else? Yes, there were many takeaways. It was a lot of fun, a great experience. Nothing specifically that comes to mind at the moment. Again, if you guys are interested, I'm happy to connect you with my consultant. If you enjoyed this video, obviously like, subscribe, leave a comment below with your takeaways or with the challenges that you're encountering or ideas that worked for you in terms of building stuff with AI, especially if you didn't have the software engineering experience. And I guess that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested, go check out Prompt Superfast. I believe it is useful. That's it for now. Until next time, keep on automating.